What's up guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg with a look at the Droid Incredible for Verizon with 4G LTE. This is the third generation of the popular phone line on Verizon, so let's take a look around the hardware and software and see what I conclude about this new device. Briefly taking a look around the packaging right now, I'm covering up the number. This is a review unit. So this is by Verizon, so you can see that Droid sort of graphic and branding. Droid Incredible 4G LTE by HTC. Inside, of course, we get the phone. Under that, we get some instruction manuals. We don't need to look at that. We also get a micro USB connector cable. So this charges and syncs the phone. You also have your wall adapter here. So we got nice HTC glossy wall adapter with our USB port right there. And we have what would have contained our SIM card, which is now installed in the phone. Now taking a look at the stats here, we have a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon processor with 1 gig of RAM and 8 gigs of internal storage, although this does have a microSD card slot, which supports cards up to 32 gigs. Back here we have an 8 megapixel autofocusing camera, which is capable of recording video at 1080p at 29 frames per second, as well as an LED flash. And you can see we have some red accents here, which are universal to the phone here. We'll take a look around. 4G LTE branding, as well as our speaker grill. Down here we have our Beats logo. HTC has a cooperation with Beats, so they've installed some equalization, a better EQ for audio that comes out of the headphone jack, as well as a stronger speaker. Up here we have our volume rocker, which is a little hard to feel. It's kind of flush to the surface. Down here we'll find our thumbnail port for popping off the back panel. You can see right there, as well as a microphone. Up here we have our micro USB connector for charging and syncing. Up top we have our headphone jack, as well as our noise cancellation microphone and our sleep wake button, as well as our earpiece, which is also accented in red. Now up front we have a 0.3 megapixel camera, which is good for only VGA quality. We also have an ambient light sensor and proximity sensor, and just above the Verizon logo you'll find an LED notification indicator, which flashes a variety of colors depending on what your notice is. Now on the bottom we'll find our basic Android controls. In this case these are backlit capacitive controls with our home, back, as well as our recent apps button. Now up front we have a 4-inch Super LCD display with a resolution of 540 by 960 with a PPI of 275, which is a pretty high quality display for a device this small, so you get pretty good quality. Now let's go ahead and pop off the back cover so we can take a look at some of the internals here. So here we have a 1700 milliamp battery, which is good for about 10 hours of talk time. You can see we also have our slots here for our micro SIM as well as a micro SD card slot. These are spring loaded and all you have to do is push on them to pop them out. Back here you can see our speaker grill, and otherwise that's about all. Now on the inside of the back panel you'll find the NFC technology with the electrical connections right here. So you can see that will interface with the phone right there. Now of course this also has GPS, Bluetooth 4.0. We also have NFC technology, DLNA support, as well as MHL for connecting USB to HD televisions. And we also have an accelerometer and a compass. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the software, and because this is a Droid phone we do have some Droid UI features. So that starts off with the boot animation, which is kind of neat, and of course you do get that Droid notification tone. Now the Incredible 4G is running Android 4.0 or Ice Cream Sandwich. No word yet on whether this will be updated to Jelly Bean, but this is running HTC Sense 4, which is the latest and greatest skin from HTC, which is actually pretty good for a Android skin. Now it starts off with the home screen here, so you can see we have this little circle here which you can swipe up to unlock the device, or if we go back to the lock screen, we have 4 apps here we can launch right from the lock screen, including camera, messages, mail, and phone. So if you swipe down to the circle, you can see it launches right to that app. So you can see we have a dialer here, which includes a little voice icon here for voice dialing. And you can see you can type or dial as you want. And you can jump to your contacts, you can go to your groups, you can go to your call history, and you can see you have your contacts up here in this nice window. So you don't have to jump between your contacts and your dialer, which I think is a kind of a nice idea. Now on the main home screens, you have 5 home screens which you can swipe through. If you tap or double tap the home button, you can see you can modify them, so you can move them around, or you can delete them, or you can add more. You can add only up to 7 here, so you can see 7. I can't add any more. Now taking a look at the 7 home screens here, on the farthest home screen it's empty, but on the next one we have a people widget which shows us our contacts. We also have these toggles here for controlling basic functions like GPS, Bluetooth, our sound, as well as our brightness. You also have some of our apps here, including mobile hotspot, guided tours, which is sort of a tutorial on how to use this device from Verizon. We also have Verizon Apps, which is Verizon's app store, and our settings button. On the main home screen, we have this very nice widget up here, which contains our time and weather, which actually has a 3D effect when you scroll through it. So I don't know if you can tell here, but if you scroll around, you can see the clouds sort of move above or hover above the clock, which is kind of a nice detail. Now on the home screen, we have our music app, which actually is kind of interesting here. So we have our onboard music as well as our apps. So you can add shortcuts directly to the music app, so you can launch them right from that portal. So all of these up here are standard. They come with the phone, but I've added Google Play Music, and you can add shortcuts right to it just by tapping settings and going to add an app shortcut. And you can pick ones that qualify. We also have an internet browser, which is customized by HTC and does support Flash. But of course, you can add any browser you want. Now, if you swipe toward the edge, you can see we get some additional functions here, although they kind of disappear awfully quickly. But you have add to bookmarks, save tabs. So let's go to our tabs. So you can see if you had multiple tabs, you can kind of scroll through them. And you can go up to settings and access the same thing. So bookmarks, tabs, view desktop site, share page, downloads, and more. And of course, we have Google Maps. Now, to the right of that, we have our Play Store, as well as VZ Navigator, a subscription-based navigation system from Verizon, although this does include Google or Android navigation for free. We have YouTube, our Gallery app for accessing our photos and video, which we'll demonstrate when we look at the camera. We also have an app for HTC Watch, which is basically a media store through HTC, which includes movies and TV shows. Now on our main dock, we have our phone dialer, email, our apps drawer, as well as our contacts and camera, and you can modify this so you can add whatever you want. So for example, if you want your web browser down here, you can do that. Taking a look at the apps drawer, we can see some of the apps preloaded on the device, including Amazon Kindle, Amazon MP3, Verizon's apps. We also have our basic apps on the front, including Clock, Facebook. We have Google Latitude. We have some games, including Let's Golf 3 HD. Our mail app, Maps, Messenger, Verizon Messenger, Mobile Hotspot. We have Movie Editor, which is kind of a movie editing software. My Verizon Mobile, which is your Verizon account. Navigation, which is the free Android navigation service. NFL Mobile. Notes, which is a note-taking app, which includes things like photographs, so you can take photos and you can record voice memos directly in the app. Your people, or your contacts really, phone, places, play books and play movies, again Google Apps, as well as Play Music, Play Store. Real Racing 2, again another game. Standard Google search settings, setup, Slacker radio, Slingbox. So if you have a Slingbox at home, you have an app already on your device. And one app I've downloaded to test the speed, which is Speed Test. We also have Google Talk, Tasks, which is kind of a task manager, kind of like reminders on the iPhone. VCast Tones, Verizon Video, Voicemail, VZ Navigator. Now down below we have our frequent, so we can see what apps we use frequently. We can see what we've downloaded, and we can see our Verizon apps. Now if we swipe down from the top, we'll get our standard notifications panel. So we get notifications for email, Facebook, Google+, or more. We also have our options up here to clear notifications or go to settings. And I can jump right to any of these notifications by tapping on them or swipe them out of the way. Now if we go to settings, we can take a look at some of the changes HTC has made here as well. So you can see we have a nice bright white settings panel with this sort of accordion effect when you swipe down. You can also go to personalize, which is where you can really personalize your device. This is one of the things that Sense does quite well. So you can change the scene here. So you can change, for example, I have the default Verizon scene with a Droid interface. You can also go to others, which will change the clock, the background, and some of the audio tones. We also have skins here, which will change both the lock screen and home screen. So we'll basically change the background and some of the user interface elements. We also have wallpaper. We can customize our wallpaper either with static wallpapers or live wallpapers or wallpapers from our photo gallery. Lock screen style, which is kind of interesting here. So you can change to a live lock screen, which include things like productivity, which will give you a live widget on your lock screen of things like your recent phone calls, your text messages, email, calendar events. You also have photo album, which will sort of give you a slideshow on your lock screen. We have the Find or Friend stream, which was basically interacts with your Facebook, Google+, Twitter apps. We also have our weather widget, people widget, or not widget, but people screen, clock, as well as stocks. Now you can also disable lock screen shortcuts. So for example, if we turn that off, you can see that we no longer get those shortcuts on the lock screen. Now if you wonder how to change these, basically everything that appears on the lock screen is everything on the launcher. So if you go to your launcher, all of these apps appear on the lock screen. So all you have to do is change any of these and they will appear on the lock screen. Now, because HTC has partnered with Beats Audio, sound is very important here. So one of the things here you'll find is Sound Enhancer. Unfortunately, it's not active until you plug in a set of headphones. So you can see it's now active. We can tap on it and we can enable Beats Audio. This does dramatically increase audio quality. So if we jump to Google Music here, tap on that and click play. Right now I have my headphones in. You can see we now have Beats Audio logo up top in the notification tray. Now under sound, there are some other interesting toggles here, including quiet ring on pickup. So if your phone starts ringing and you pick it up, it automatically dials back that ringer. Also pocket mode. So if it's in your pocket, it blasts the speaker to make sure you hear your ringer. And flip for speaker. So if you're on a phone call and you flip your phone over, it will automatically set it to speaker mode. Now HTC has also done some very interesting things with the camera app. So the camera app, one of my favorite things here is the fact that you don't have to toggle between video or camera mode. All you have to do is tap the shutter release to take a photo, or tap the video control to start recording video, all without switching modes. Now, of course, you have tap to focus, tap to auto exposure, and you can hear the tone here. You also have your volume or zoom in control, which is digital zoom, of course, not optical zoom. And you have some effects here. So you can do, looks like distortion, which is kind of a mirror effect, vignette, depth of field, which kind of blurs out the edges, focuses the center, dots, mono, country, vintage, vintage warm, vintage gold, grayscale, sepia, negative, solarize, posterize, and aqua. Now there are tons of options here. So if you tap the A in the lower corner, you can go to slow motion video. You can set it to auto, HDR, panorama, portrait, portrait group shot, landscape, whiteboard, close-up, low light. So you have lots and lots of options. You also have your settings here. So you can change whether you want to use your front camera or the rear-facing camera, self-timer, image resolution, video quality, preview duration, image adjustments. So if you tap on image adjustments, you can see you can change your exposure, contrast, saturation, sharpness, your ISO levels here. So you can set custom ISO levels, white balance, so fluorescent, incandescent, daylight, cloudy, and you can see you can continue to control all of those right from the same screen, and all you have to do is swipe down to get to additional options. Very nice user interface. Also camera detection, video options, camera interface, auto upload on and off. So you see you have lots and lots of options in a very nice user interface. You also have your flash controls up here. Basically all I have to do is toggle them between flash off, flash auto, or flash on. In terms of video quality, it is pretty good. It's very sharp, lots of detail, pretty good color accuracy, although it does tend to be overexposed in bright lighting conditions. The other big problem I have is the autofocusing function does cause some noise on the microphone. So you can actually hear the clicking of the lens when it's autofocusing. So it's kind of a problem, but otherwise it's a pretty good camera. Now the other big story here is 4G LTE speed. So I'm able to get about 16 megs down and about 16 megs up. So very fast speeds. Now overall I'm pretty impressed with the display. With a pixel density of 276, it's pretty good. It's definitely not iPhone 4S quality, but it gets up there, especially for a larger screen. The iPhone 4S is at 326 ppi. This is at 275. So it won't challenge the iPhone 4S for resolution, but it does a pretty good job. Now you can see that off axis it's pretty good, although it does tend to fade away like most LCD screens when at extreme angles. Now because we have that high resolution screen, it does make text look very sharp, very crisp, so you don't see a lot of blurring at the edges. Now in terms of size and form factor, it's actually pretty similar to the iPhone 4 and 4S, but of course the iPhone 4S has a much smaller screen than that 4-inch screen here. But it has a very similar overall footprint, so it handles pretty nicely in the hand. I think it's about the right size here. So it's not too big. You can use your thumb to operate the entire device in one hand. So I definitely like the size and form factor of the Incredible. Now this certainly is dwarfed by the Galaxy S3, which is quite a bit bigger with that 4.8-inch screen. Which does feel a little big, a little too bulky in many ways, so you can see it's kind of harder to reach all corners of the phone without sort of loosening your grip on it to operate it. So definitely I think this is the perfect form factor, but not everybody may want that smaller screen. Now overall I'm definitely impressed by the HTC Incredible. It's definitely one of those rare examples of a higher quality, smaller screen size phone. I think it's just about the right size. So you get a nice high quality screen, which is larger than the iPhone, but not too big, so you can operate it with one hand and hold on to it comfortably. And you get a very nice skin. I do like HTC skin versus, for example, Samsung skin. I prefer what HTC is doing here. So you preserve all these standard Android controls, and you get a pretty nice user-friendly skin, which I think enhances the experience overall. And it's also very quick and smooth. This is a very silky smooth phone despite its kind of lower specs. You do get a dual-core processor, but it's not a quad-core processor. It's not running at 1.5 gigahertz. It's just running at 1.2 gigahertz, but you wouldn't know. It runs very quick, very smooth. You also get a very good camera, a very nice high-quality display, and a very nice lightweight form factor, which is pretty durable. So you get this nice grippable texture on the back to hold the phone, and when you put it on the table, you don't have to worry about scratching the back of the phone, and it kind of holds onto the table where you put it. The other big story here is Beats Audio, which does make a big impact on the quality of audio coming out of the headphone jack. So that EQ definitely makes this one of the best sounding phones or tablets I've heard to date. So if you're interested in top quality audio, you may want to look at this device. You're definitely going to get some of the best audio for your music and movies. And the other standout feature here is Verizon's 4G LTE, which gives you some blazing fast performance. So that's going to do for me, guys, in this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.